This is going to be the game that everyone wants to discuss this week. Cowboys at Chiefs per FanDuel Sportsbook. Kansas City is currently minus 2.5 point home favorite. So over under currently sits at 56 points, highest total by a large margin this week. The under looks a little bit appealing, at least from betting perspective. It's 81% of the money right now, only 31% of the betting ticket. So at least the sharps think this might be set a little bit too high. But what do you think about this game, Reeves?
This is the game that everyone's going to kind of talk about on all the shows this week and try to build lineups around. It's going to be hard. We're going to try to build one after this, but everyone's expensive. There are not a lot of cheapies here, but games involving the Cowboys averaging 53.2 points. That's the second most in the league. Games involving the Chiefs, 50.3 points. That's sixth in the league. So you gotta have these merging of worlds where we're gonna have a high game total like this. And the Chiefs too. Also, when you look at them defensively, they just faced Daniel Jones, Jordan Love, and Derek Carr, who that game was close for a little bit too before the Deshaun Jackson fumble. So I definitely am not going to give their defensive turnaround any very much credit at all over this run. And when you talk about defending the Cowboys, they're so versatile anyways. I mean, Kellen Moore's been in his bag all year. They can go 12 personnel, and they can run the football on you. They can go 3 wide receivers now, especially with Michael Gallup back, and throw the football on you. They're just too versatile for a team like the Chiefs that just don't have the coverage assets. And they really don't have the front end assets either. So, the Cowboys, at least on their end, I believe, are going to be able to do their part. The Chiefs are a little more of a question mark, right? Because obviously everyone wants to get on the hot button topic of how teams defend the Chiefs, and the Raiders came out and played cover 3 for 45% of their snaps. And was this the reason that the Chiefs actually had their offensive explosion? Or was it really just that the Chiefs have really, through 10 weeks, the NFL season, had 7 really good weeks and 3 bad weeks? We still are working with an inherently small sample and an NFL, season sample size. Also, if the Cowboys want to go too high safety and do what other teams have done, they don't really have the personnel for it. Their safeties and linebackers aren't really good in coverage at all. They've been in a really aggressive, almost man-based defense this season. Obviously, they're not going to do that against the Chiefs. You're not going to line up the, Trayvon Diggs on Tyreek Hill. That's just not, right. That's something we're not going to see happen. We'd love to see it happen. Absolutely. But Dallas is going to have to come out of their comfort zone as well, like people ask the Raiders to try to do. So I don't really, foresee Dallas being able to kind of do a lot of things that other teams have done successfully as well. Dallas has still done things really well their way, and they might try to stick with things, but I do believe that this is a spot too where we can look at the Chiefs side to really kind of punch back as well and kind of roll over some success they had. Remember, they just didn't turn the ball over on offense last week. They had the high variance plays. Daryl Williams coming down at the 50, those are plays that weren't happening for them, over this stretch as well. So I do think that they can sustain some of this. Now, if you're going to get in the weeds on some of this, who to play stuff, everyone.
Just all the guys. All the guys. Reeves, a 4 p.m. game too. So I think one of the things that we should touch on right away is that a lot of people are going to have these Kansas City and the Dallas lineups already built, and if things go really well in the beginning, maybe they'll stay with them. If things don't go so well, we can't stay on this really chalky game. We've had a couple slates like this already this year, and I like that it is in the afternoon because it gives us a little bit more leverage to make those late swaps that a lot of people aren't willing to do. So I'm with you. The Dallas side of the ball is still, pretty appealing, right? There's a couple different directions we can go. There's a little bit of value, but I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, like I said, they're so multidimensional as an offense. It's easy to understand that they can exploit whatever a defense wants to do, right? They can't really get pigeonholed. It's hard to pigeonhole them. Denver did 2 weeks ago by getting a 4-man pass rush. Are the Chiefs going to be able to get a 4-man pass rush like Denver did? I don't really think that they're going to. The Chiefs are going to really, and if the Chiefs go way ahead, say the Chiefs are hot, they roll it over and they go up, 14 or 17 points early. Dallas, now you've got the passing side of it. They can still punch back passing the football. That's what kind of makes them so appealing. I think from stacking stance, the Chiefs passing side makes the most sense just because when you look at the splits, 80% of the Chiefs offensive touchdowns are passing versus Dallas, where they're a little more multifaceted. Like we talked about, 67% of their offensive touchdowns are passing, but Zeke can get touchdowns. So it makes them a little harder, right, to figure out, because it's easy to say Zeke can go off in this game. The Chiefs are terrible at stopping the run. And they're awful in stopping receivers in the passing game. So it's really easy to say, well, Zeke's the piece down. When the Chiefs go ahead, then it's really easy to say Dak's the piece down. I think when you're looking at the inflection points on the Dallas side, there are 2 things. One, we have Dalton Schultz conceded his target share, and he was never going to just double up the targets that CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper had had early in the season. It just it wasn't sustainable from a talent perspective. The Cowboys were going to get the football to their better players eventually. But Dalton Schultz also is not coming off the field since this Blake Jarwin injury. I mean, he's run a route on 91%, 82% of the dropbacks the past 2 games, and he probably would have been over 90% last week if that game wasn't such a massive blowout. I mean, the Chiefs did hold Darren Waller down last week. He had a touchdown come off the board, but they've still been really struggled, defending tight ends this season. They've allowed, an 8.8% touchdown rate to tight ends. That's 29th, 9.4 yards per target. That's dead last in the NFL. And then when we had Michael Gallup come back, we had CeeDee Lamb kick back into the slot for 70% of his routes, and that's kind of what we thought would happen. So, I mean, you look at the Chiefs, they haven't really guarded interior wide receivers as well. Now, Lamb is the most expensive guy to grab on the Cowboys passing side. So that's always, a tough spot, especially because if you want to run back any of the Chiefs, the guys you're going to run back are Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and they're really expensive as well. Expensive. So there's a salary cap in our game, and that makes this game – that's the hardest component of this game, right? Is maneuvering around the salary cap. It'd be great if last week we had Dearness Johnson at 5'8" and Mark Ingram to plug in. It'd be awesome, but we don't really have that this week. We might if Elijah Mitchell ends up sitting, then Jeff Wilson's going to be like the auto play.
It does feel like we're waiting on some of that stuff, right? Like, obviously, we don't know if Kamara is playing either at this point. Is CEH going to be back? Like, that has some implications for this game. It looks like at least they're considering holding him out until after the bye, but they're going to see how things go.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about CEH is, it's obviously been popular to dunk on CEH because he was a reach of a draft pick in sense of taking a first-round running back and some of the running backs he was taking over. But when he does come back, whether it be this week or next, I mean, he does offer them a lot more rushing upside than Daryl Williams does. As good as Daryl Williams has played, Daryl Williams has really been good in the passing game, which we never really seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire do so far to this point in his career, despite the notion that he was going to be a pass catcher coming out of LSU. But if you look at like rates versus light boxes, Daryl Williams is having just 3.7 yards per carry against light boxes. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is at 5 yards per carry. In terms of expected rushing yards, Daryl Williams right now is at minus 73 rushing yards below expectation. That's the 6th worst rate in the NFL. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was 0. He was baseline, so he was getting the yards he was supposed to get. So from a rushing component, like, he is going to be an upgrade for the offense, as much as people want to dunk on it. And and if he comes back against Dallas, I mean, Dallas is a team that has been terrible defending the run as well. So I mean, it's just another wrinkle to throw in things. Now, if he sits, you have Daryl Williams as a guy that's gotten 24, 19, 22, and 20 touches in 4 of his past 5 games.
Why don't we see CH get that type of usage? I guess that's my biggest thing. Like, has Daryl done enough to eat into CH's usage even more to where neither of these guys are playable?
It very well could be. So the biggest bugaboo right now from and I'm in the outside looking in. The biggest thing that's been consistent for Clyde Edwards-Helaire in terms of what I believe that this coaching staff using is he's just terrible in pass protection. Sure. He's awful. And he was awful as a pass protector coming out of LSU, and he's been awful as his year-plus sample in pass protection. And I just believe that that's why he doesn't play in those long down and distance situations. And Daryl does. Daryl always was the guy that came in on those situations. So when CH is out of the way, it just extended his role even further. Whereas vice versa, like if Daryl was to miss a game, they probably just play Jerick McKinnon in those spots, right?
True. True.
So, I mean, I think that's always been like the kind of the early career bugaboo for him. But as a pure just running the football against light boxes, like Daryl's like ham and egger, man. Like Daryl's going to get you barely what's blocked. We just talked about the numbers. Whereas Clyde at least is going to get you what's blocked.
He's not going to make as many probably mistakes. I want to run something by you quickly before we, I guess, move forward. What scares me a little bit, and obviously we're looking at Run the Sims right now, simulating this game, this slate 10,000 times is what this tool allows us to do. I'm nervous, Reeves, because you don't see a lot of Chiefs in the optimals at this moment, and you don't see a lot of Cowboys in the optimals at this moment. And a lot of people are going to be waiting to play this game, and it probably has to do with pricing at this point, right? So we have Travis Kelce. He's in like the top 10 at a 13% optimal rate, but we have to keep scrolling here. There's no Cowboys, which is odd. And then we have to scroll all the way down to a 10% Tyreek Hill and a 8% Patrick Mahomes. Like, those are fine rates. Like, I'm not even trying to say that they're not, but for the ownership that this game is going to kind of lead us to, I don't know. Like, this is like off the hop. It feels like maybe these guys are a little bit too expensive. And I hate saying that this early in the week because someone's going to clip this and absolutely bury me for it when they put up 50. But I don't know. Like, that we have the Sims for a reason, right? They're playing out all these different game scenarios. They're using all the different target shares and the inputs and all of those things. And there's not a lot of Cowboys in there, and there's not a lot of Chiefs. So, like, I mean, what are we doing here? I don't know. It makes me nervous at the very least.
think that's a layout and why every slate's different, right? So last week was a unique slate where we had all that running back value open up, and that's not really present right now. Like we said, Elijah Mitchell, maybe if he doesn't play, Jeff Wilson at 5K becomes like an auto play for everybody, right? And that unlocks all of this to getting, because right now you're talking about what? The only guys under 6K that you could possibly entertain playing are Michael Gallup and maybe Byron Pringle because he ran the most routes of all of the.
So maybe that's why, right? Our value was much worse this week. That's the reason that these guys
can't
fit.
AJ Dillon is 7K. Yep. Everyone's going to want to play AJ Dillon. Hell yeah, I want to play AJ Dillon too. He's 7K. Yep. I think that's still a value, but he's also just not 5.8K like Dearness Johnson was. And he's also not 5.5 like Mark Ingram was. And I forget where Ramondre's price was.
So maybe that's not as much of a knock on KC, like I was saying. It's just really the context of the slate at this moment is not great for value, which hopefully we get something, because then I would imagine these guys are going to move up significantly. I would hope.
Because remember on FanDuel this year, we've talked about on this show, and you've talked about on Leone's show, like on FanDuel. Kind of the meta play on FanDuel this season has been playing like an RB2 that's like sub 6K that can just find the end zone, right? Yep. And where's that guy this week?
The earliest guy, or I guess the cheapest running back that I kind of see is maybe Myles Gaskin at 6,200. There's not a lot of guys that are cheap this week, Reeves. Like it's actually kind of a problem. Like it's like Alex Collins, 5,600. If he's going to be the guy, like I hate playing Seattle running backs, but as from like a price perspective, he's like the only one that really stands out below 6K to me at the running back position. So that's going to be a problem.
Right, 100%. Because like I said, we've been building FanDuel lineups. We've had Elijah Mitchell at 5.9 or Khalil Herbert at 5.5. Like we've had these guys consistently all year, and this is kind of the first week, barring what happens with Jeff Wilson and Elijah Mitchell's finger. Yeah, that it's hard to find one of those guys this week.
I'm curious too, before we build the lineup, and I got to make sure we get to that here shortly, but some of the micro stuff that we're looking at, zone coverage, man coverage, is this a week where we should be kind of looking more towards someone like Amari or someone like CD? I know we don't have like a huge sample now, like Gallup hasn't really been back for very long, but I heard some people discussing how this might be a decent bounce back spot for Amari, but CD's the one that looks like he's going to be the lowest owned, so I'm trying to figure out, piece my way through Dallas in some ways too.
Well, it all depends what the Chiefs try to do, right? So the Chiefs have been forced to be an aggressive defense. They, obviously Spags is in his bones, so he's going to blitz a lot. And, they do play primarily man coverage more than not. And if they do play man coverage, CeeDee Lamb has absolutely obliterated man coverage this season. Every touchdown he scored has been against man coverage on the season.
Nice.
So I mean, if they're gonna try to throw any man coverage and mix it in, because it'll probably be a combo, right? Like they're just not gonna stay in man. But yeah, the Falcons are pretty much been playing cover 2, and Dean Pease dialed up a couple blitzes, and CD just kind of put it on him for both of them. And I mean, man, CD only played 42% of the snaps and did that. Like, like imagine if Atlanta threw some counter punches in that game, what we could have had.
I have so many regrets from last week in that game. I can't even talk about it, man. But
were you on Falcons?
So last week I ended up playing one of the cheap running backs, and I believe my main. I'm trying to remember. I guess I've been scarred so heavily that I don't even remember what my main stack was last week. I had all the Tom Brady stuff last week, obviously, so that wasn't great. But did have some teams with Dak on some of the stuff. It wasn't like my 1K entry. I think it was like my 3-3-3, and I had Dak, I had Zeke, and I had CD on that roster, but basically ruined it with my mini stack, my Aaron Jones coming late. So yeah, man, I can't even talk about it. But let's move over.
I thought we talked ourselves out of Aaron Jones last week.
We did, man, and then I saw he was 1% owned, and I wanted to win. So
I hear you.
All right, so before we build a lineup around this game, I want everyone to pause this video. Let me know in the comments how you would stack up Dallas, KC, and DFS this week. Reeves, what do you want to do here? You want to go Dak side, or do you want to go Mahomes side here?
I think we got to go Mahomes. Okay. Just because I think 1, he's easier to stack, and I think 2, it's easier to predict that the Chiefs, if they do score, will have passing touchdowns.
Okay, fair enough.
But I mean, listen, we've been down this road to Chiefs for time. We're going to find out. I mean, like I said, we've played 10 weeks of the NFL now, and the Chiefs haven't had their bye yet.
Right.
And they honestly do. Their sample, if you look at the season, like they've been good 7 of 10 games.
Mm-hmm. Not bad. So I'll take 7%.
It just happened. Those 3 were in a row, though, so everyone got scared.
That will happen, Reeves. People get really scared. Davis was talking about people just don't like to lose.
Yeah, the Bucks and Rams are in the same boat this week, right? Like all everyone's talking about is them. Are the Rams and Bucks broken now? Like the Bucks had the ball for 20 minutes last week. What are you going to do?
I'm gonna say no, but we'll see. I guess where they land on the next slate. I guess it's kind of nice we don't have to think about it on this main slate for those guys. But with Patrick Mahomes, are we trying to do some sort of elite double with Mahomes? Do we want a single with maybe Kelsey?
I mean,
yeah,
you can.
So hard.
We'll do. We would mess around with this lineup for a half hour if you try to think put both on it.
And we just said there's no value, so it's gonna be terrible.
So let's put Kelsey in it first. Mm-hmm. And then if we end up with money, maybe we go up. But let's do Kelsey first because
I think want to try and make CD work on the other side, or are we still like in so much trouble with salary at that point?
I mean, we might be at 8K. Let's see where we end up first.
Okay.
Because I mean, here's the thing with I think Kelsey's price is fantastic on FanDuel this week too because he's only 600 more than Waller.
Right.
So we don't even get like a super preem like flop lag spot for Waller, even though we're going to talk about that game too. Look for that video.
There you go. That's a professional transition, Reeves. I can toss a card right up at this way. I don't know where my finger's pointing. Right up there. Right when you said that, there's gonna be a video that people can click on. It's the best thing.
Beautiful. Yeah. So let's throw in the chalk jackhammer and Algiers Jamil Dylan.
Mm-hmm. And I hate when you say stuff like that, but I do know who you mean this time.
Oh, fair enough.
How do you say his name? Algiers what?
Algiers Jamil.
I'm not even going to attempt that. So, all right. We got AJ. Do we want to go with anything on the other side of that, or we just got a one-off AJ at 7K?
I think we're going to one-off right now. I purposely didn't pick the Vikings because I feel like we've talked about the Vikings every slate for like the past month, and I just wanted a break talking from them.
Yeah, I'm going to be at that game and probably going to be in a lot of pain because I would imagine I'm going to have a good amount of players in it. So.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the popular 1 o'clock game, but I just needed a Vikings break in
that's
conversation.
I'm good with that. Do we want to throw Gaskin does seem like the cheapest running back?
Yeah, let's throw Gaskin in. I hate it. I mean, I'd never like to play Gaskin because the problem with Miami is they just suck at running the ball against everybody.
And their total's never high. So what is the touchdown upside from Gaskin at that point too?
But he is that when you're just looking from like a touch perspective, though, when you look at Gaskin, I mean. 87% of the backfield touches, 79% the past 2 weeks. I mean, listen, I'm not going to try to talk myself for this day. Let's put him in.
He's literally just there so we can fit in some of these other guys from this game at this point. Yeah.
If let's luck box into some catches and a touchdown, please.
I'll say it again because I said it last week and you hated me for it. But do we want to put Elijah Moore on the other side of this Gaskin stack?
No, absolutely not.
Fair enough.
I mean, you got your Flacco suck out touchdown, Joe, but he didn't play again.
I officially am just going to bring him up to Harmon because Harmon loves him and I know you hate him, so we can move on.
No, I love him. But he's not playing.
You hate the team. You hate the usage. You hate the quarter. Everything else about the situation. Yeah, I get it.
The Jets aren't playing. They're playing Jameson. It's week 11. They're playing Joe. First of all, they're starting Joe Flacco for no reason. I mean, there's no. I can't. Let's move off the Jets.
All right.
Let's add a mini here that I love. Okay. Let's put in our boy Arthur Juan and Brandon Cooks.
Another guy that I know. I know some of these words.
So what do we have for
Arthur Juan and Cooks? So then we got 5,800 the rest of the way. I'm going to force us to play a cheaper. I mean, what is it? Washington probably on the cheaper end, 3,500.
Yeah, I'm looking at Washington, Carolina. So let's go the cheapest first to see how much money we'll have. So we'll plug in Washington.
Okay, so we got 6,900 or so the rest of the way. So there's plenty of room. We probably could play CD if we wanted to on a bring back.
If we put in CD, what do we have left?
5,900 in the flex. So it's right border. Right, we just said there wasn't a guy that we liked.
Let's do Amari. Let's just do Amari and save the 700 because we
then we can put 5,900. Okay, so we're going Amari.
Oh, you almost.
We're going
if you want to do that? That's fine. Yeah. We can do Amari and T Higgins though.
Ooh, okay. So we got 6,600 left. That gets us to Devonta Smith. That gets us to Michael Carter. That gets us to T Higgins. You like the T Higgins side of that?
Yeah, we'll again. I mean, if you want to post that video, we're going to talk about that game.
All right.
So all right. I mean, he's going to be popular, but he'll be popular this week too. But we can do a lot. But if you wanted to do a pivot to this, we could do Elijah Moore or CD. But I don't. I mean, Elijah Moore's just not playing. Maybe this is the week he plays.